this was always going to happen. I feel like it was either going to go one of two ways. He would re-sign, or he'd end up taking them, finding a third charter from somewhere for 23.11. But playing it down, as you said last week, it was probably already done at that point. And how long it had been done, who knows? But good for him to get it out. And he had a pretty decent weekend, didn't he, at Darlington, with the win on Saturday in the Xfinity race, and then probably could and should have won the race on Sunday, dominated the Southern 500 before running into the trouble with the loose wheel and then winding up in someone else's accident towards the end. But he's been strong all season. That's a good start. He didn't get the result that he probably expected on Sunday, although he did get back up towards the front at the end. But strong start for him. His other Gibbs teammates, Bell and Truex, had not great nights. So this is done, as you say, it's done and dusted. It's in the filed away, and he can now concentrate on the rest of the season for himself and his 11 crew and his own team, who have got both of their cars in the playoffs. And he goes to Kansas this week, where he won earlier in the year with that late race battle with Kyle Larson, which fell his way. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes there. And obviously Larson will be out for revenge on that one after winning on Sunday, but we'll talk about that, I'm sure, over the weekend. How many years? Multi-year. What could that mean for a 42-year-old? Is it going to be two, one with another option of one? Kevin Harvick is in that similar age bracket, and he's only got 2 months of his Cup career left. So it's going to be interesting to see how long Denny goes for, and good for him to see out his career where it all started at JGR so many years ago.
And that's right, you kind of alluded to it there, that this also impacts 2311 Racing. There are some news regarding that as well, as Denny said that they'll be continuing as well with Toyota. But there was speculation in the industry that 2311 could potentially go over to Ford. There was a lot of chatter about this, and Denny did confirm on his podcast that the team that he co-owns with Michael Jordan will stay with Toyota. And of course, that Cup team was a big part of the process in negotiating his contract. He had been saying that for a couple months. So Matt, how much will the continuation of his relationship with 2311 and Toyota help them continue to improve as an organization instead of having to switch over to Ford?
Continuity is obviously key, and Toyota have been pretty strong, haven't they, throughout the season? And as I mentioned, Denny's got both of those 2311 cars of Reddick and Wallace in the playoffs. Bubba didn't have such a great run at Darlington, but Reddick was up there all day and will be strong again for the next couple of weeks. You can be sure. So I don't know. Switch to Ford would have been interesting. They really haven't have they, a great season. Penske have flattered to deceive a little bit. That Logano was strong at the beginning of the year, but yeah, he's in the playoffs. But again, he had a bit of a flat run at the weekend. Blaney can be very hot but not get results. Only Kevin Harvick has been holding up the end of the SHR crew. We've seen a few bits and pieces from other drivers, but I feel like it's a bit of a no-brainer really for them to stay all put together. And of course, if with Denny staying with the Toyota factory team, I guess you would call it, at JGR, to use a bit more of a European terminology on it, it does make sense for it all to stay as was. Adam says, I'm picking Denny Hamlin to win the championship. He's past due. I've got him in my final four, Adam, I won't lie, but I'm not sure. I just feel like he is going to be that. He's going to be this generation's Mark Martin and just does not end up with a championship ring. But we've seen how well how combative, let's say, he's been this season. Maybe this is his kind of final real chance to show what he can do as a championship force before the twilight of his career approaches over the next couple of years with that new contract, as we've been talking about.
And something I want to add here, and Adam, I agree, he's actually my champion on my grid, and I made that over on my podcast. Because Denny Hamlin has just been the main character of this season. You go back to Phoenix earlier in the year, he gets that penalty after intentionally wrecking Chastain. I don't necessarily agree with that penalty, but that did happen. And then you have the incidents at Kansas, and you have the incident at Pocono with Kyle Larson. I feel like this championship is going to come down to Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, personally, but we'll have to wait and see. But Denny Hamlin going into the playoffs, getting this said and done right at the start of it, and now with 23-11, the past three winners at Kansas Speedway have been 23-11, 23-11, and Denny Hamlin. They are heading into Kansas. Arguably, the strongest people at that track right now are Toyota, specifically 23-11 and Denny himself. I think this is a perfect time to get this wrapped up. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they do. And then behind the mic left a comment here saying his enemies might have something to say about him winning a title. That's very true. But we said the same thing about Ross Chastain last year. And look, he made it to the championship 4 last year. I know he didn't win it, but he still got pretty close. He got second place. I mean, we'll have to wait and see what happens, though.
We're still to see, aren't we, the championship race. We saw it in the Xfinity Series a couple of years ago when Hemrick won, but we're still to see that championship race come down to an absolute fireworks show at the end, with a late caution and maybe some overtime or something like that between all or a couple of the championship drivers.